Hello, students. Good afternoon, and I hope we are doing so well. Welcome again to the Elstar channel for learners. This is a channel specifically dedicated to the students of Divine Flavors Institute, and these are students that we are training and preparing for the NAPTEX examination. In our previous lesson, we were able to understand what biological classification is. We also understood that there are some three personalities that contributed immensely to what we are using today. That is the classification of living things, which has given rise to the names that we have given to animals, the scientific names that we given to plants, and then all other living things. And then we're able to look at the taxonomical ranking. In today's discussion, we are going to take a look at the binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature. What is binomial nomenclature? Binomial nomenclature is referring to the biological classification, biological identification of living organisms using the genus and then the species as their names. The name is the term is binomial. So it means that we are going to use two things by two things. And the nomenclature is only talking about a name, the naming system. So in effect, we are just talking about a naming system that makes use of two taxon, and that is the genus and then the species. We are going to take a look at man. Man like this, after the classification, when you classify, you get to the genus. The genus name is the Homo, and the species name is the Sapien. So we're going to take a look at how we should write these scientific names or the botanical uh, binomial names. So first, the genus name must have a capital letter starting that name. And then the species name must be without capital letter starting that particular name. So each name, that is the genus and the species, must be underlined independently. Mind you, they should be underlined independently. And some people will be using will be slanting the names. Please don't slant the names when you are writing. That can only be done when you are typing. So our emphasis is on how to write the biological names at your level. So let's take a look at a few examples that we have. All right. So when you look at the human, you want to use the human and then that of an example in plants. So the classification using the ranking, we can start from the kingdom, and the name of the kingdom is Animalia in human, but it is Plantae in maize. The phylum, the phylum is actually used in the case of animals, but the division we limit it to that of a plant. So in terms of the phylum, humans belong to the chordata because basically they are vertebrates. We human beings are vertebrates, so we belong to the chordata. Then maize, they are flowering plants, so they belong to the mono. They belong to the angiospermophyta. Then in terms of the class, humans will belong to Mammalia, maize will belong to Monocotyledona. We made mention of this in our previous discussion, so I wouldn't talk much about it. Then, in terms of order, human belong to the primate, and maize they belong to the graminal. Then in terms of the family, the hominidae is for human, and then maize will belong to the Graminaceae. Then the genus, Homo for human, and in the case of maize, that will be Zia. And then in the case of the species, we have the sapiens for man, and then maize, we have the maize. All right, now let's just take a look at how the names are written. Mind you, we mentioned that we are making use of the genus name, and then we also are making use of the species name. Okay, so these are some scientific names of selected organisms, and we want to start from that of a man. So I hope you can see how the scientific name is written. Homo sapiens. So the Homo, which is the genus name, starts with the H starts with a capital letter, and then the species name starts with a small letter. And both has been underlined independently. You also have one for rice. Rice belongs to the genus Oryza, and the species name is Sativa. So the genus is written starting with capital O. So Oryza is written and underlined, spaced, and then Sativa, which is the species name, is starting with a small letter S, and it has also been underlined. Please, if you don't go through this, you will lose marks. If you are asked to write the scientific name of a given species and you don't follow this simple rule, you'll be marked wrong. So kindly take note of this that we are talking about. All right, that is it about the classification. One interesting organism that we will look at in order to understand properly the biodiversity that we talk about in our previous video is the virus. Virus. Um, Technically, we have three forms of a nucleus. So we say the karyote is in relation to the nucleus. So we have the eukaryote, we have the prokaryote, and we also have the eukaryote. E is E, the eukaryote is EU, and it means that that particular nucleus is a true nucleus because it would have a well consolidated features that qualifies it to be a nucleus, an organelle. That is a membrane bound structure, and then the contents are all intact, so it makes it distinct. However, prokaryotes don't fall under the yeah, bacteria don't fall under the eukaryotes because they don't have a true um, nucleus, but the contents are there, just that the membrane surrounding that particular structure to qualify it to be an organelle is absent. I hope you understand what an organelle is. Don't worry, in our next lesson, which has to do with the biological cells or the living cells, we'll be taking a look at that. Okay, so viruses fall under the type of nucleus that they have is eukaryotic organisms. So what is a virus? Viruses are microscopic, pathogenic, and they carry out their life processes only inside another organism, meaning that they are obligate. In the absence of the host, they find it difficult to survive. They are neither living nor a non-living cell-like organisms without a well-defined cell nucleus and do not fit into any of the kingdoms of living things. They don't fall under any of the kingdoms. So we have the prokaryotes. We have the prokaryotes, and we have the Protoctista, we have the fungi, we have planta, we have animalia. These four are having the eukaryotic cells, the true cells. Prokaryotes don't have a true cell. but they have the content, the um, the chromosomes are intact and they are in suspension in the cytoplasm. And the prokaryotes, one interesting thing that they also have is that they have a cell wall, and the cell wall is a bit of a polysaccharide. Okay. Now this virus, let's see how the the characteristics that they have again. The virus consists of protein and then a nucleic acid, that's the RNA, and then the DNA materials that it combines with that of the host to enable it replicate. So their mode of survival is by combining the DNA and then their RNAs with that of the host, so that they'll make a replica of it, and that makes them uh, form part and parcel of that particular host. What else do they have? They are obligate parasites and are neither living things or non-living things. So they are put under one category of organisms as eukaryotic. So they are like a bridge between living things and then non-living things. Okay, what are some examples that let me show you some of the examples of how they look like. So we have the bacteriophage, the bacteriophage. I hope you can see how the bacteriophage looks like. Bacteriophage, let me enlarge it for you. Okay, bacteriophage. So they have the nucleic acid content, and we are talking about the nucleic acid. We are talking about the ribonucleic acid, and then that is the RNA. Then we have the DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. So they are contained in the head region. They have a protein coating, so that is dissolved, and then they are able to get um, the nucleic acid interacting or combining with that of the host. They have a fibrous structure that looks like a hook, so they make use of that to attach themselves onto the walls of the cells of the host in which they find themselves. Others include the poliomyelitis. We also have um, the AIDS AIDS virus. Now we even have corona, and um, this they say. Anyway, we are not talking about viruses. Uh, I don't even know how to conclude this particular session. But what I'm trying to put across is that this virus do not fit into any of the um, five kingdoms that we have mentioned. Let's see why it is classified as a living thing and then a non-living thing. Viruses as living things because they exist as obligate parasites. They exist as obligate parasites. That is their mode of nutrition. So that makes it a living thing. So if it is in the host, they exhibit a mode of nutrition. So they are only living things when they are found in the tissues of a host. 2. They multiply rapidly in the living tissues of the host. And this is also characteristic of all living things. We see that they are able to reproduce. Okay. Through lack though they lack nucleus and most organelles, but they contain a nucleic acid that they use for protein synthesis, growth, and development. Yes, they're also able to increase in size irreversibly. So that is another characteristic of a living thing, which they also possess. So that makes them a living thing. Now, what makes them a non-living thing? They are unable to carry out life processes such as nutrition and reproduction. That is, if they are outside the body, if they are outside the body of the host, they are unable to carry out these life processes. So they are able to survive for a short spell of time if the condition is favorable for them. Like we have seen the case of a corona, we're told that they're able to survive within a short spell on fabric, on metal surfaces, on a blah 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 blah. Yeah. So they can only survive if the condition is a bit favorable for them. Then they crystalline, they crystallize, they form particles at the end of the day and they exist as a particle. So these characteristics are the ones that make them not to qualify into the various uh, five kingdoms. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've done justice to what we need to know. Uh, Thankfully, we've been able to exhaust the various objectives that we wanted to achieve. We mentioned that the biological classification, by the end of the lesson, we should be able to understand the definition for biological classification, the history and the importance of classification. We're able to understand the contributions of Aristotle. We're able to understand the contributions of um, John Ray, as well as Linus. All right. So because we are done with this particular subtopic, we are going to write another quiz. And this quiz is still going to be online. Yes, Bridget, can you hear me? Yes, Anthony, I hope you can also hear me. MFA, last time you were unable to do the quiz. I don't know why. Um, Please make sure, even if you don't have a phone, because I'll make it in such a way that you write your name on top of the form. And this time around, don't forget to click in order to view your score. The score is instant. And if you're not comfortable with what you score, you can go back to the link and then try your hands on the exercise again. But when you try it for the second time, I will know. It will come to me that you have tried the test for the second time. All right, so our next topic is going to be the living cells or the biological cells. So you can start to read on that. And mind, if you have questions, make sure you drop them on the page. Let's discuss them. And then until then, I wish you the best. I hope you are studying. I'm also now a student. So you're all students anyway. So I can call you a colleague student. All right, have a nice day. I miss you though. I miss all of you. And I'll meet you in somewhere the mid of December. Have a nice day.